the Italian Football Podcast.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Italian Football Podcast, the official podcast of Football Italia. I'm Carlo Garganese, joined as always by Nima and Carlo. On today's show, we will react to the final weekend of the Serie A season. Frosinone become the final team to be relegated after one of the most dramatic endings in Serie A history. A 93rd minute winner from Niang saves Empoli from relegation and in the process sends Frosinone down to Serie B, as Fabio Cannavaro, the manager of Udinese, also saves his Udinese team with a 1-0 win at Frosinone. It was an incredible ending. Elsewhere, Atalanta thrashed Torino to cap off a brilliant week after their Europa League final win over Bayer Leverkusen. Torino have a chance, though, of qualifying for the Conference League after Napoli's disastrous title defence, the worst title defence in Serie A history. That comes to an end by failing to beat Lecce, Victor Osimhen's final game for Napoli. So Napoli out of Europe altogether. Roma fail to qualify for the Champions League as well. They'll be in the Europa League. Juventus finish above Bologna as Juve beat Monza with a resurgent Federico Chiesa, and Bologna lose their final game at Genoa in Thiago Motta's final game before joining Juve. Milan bid farewell to Stefano Pioli and Olivier Giroud in a crazy game against already relegated Salernitana. Claudio Ranieri also waves goodbye to Cagliari and club football. We'll also have our Serie A Team of the Season, our Serie A Awards. We'll also preview the Conference League final as Fiorentina take on Olympiacos in Athens this midweek. And we'll also have our usual Baggio, Premface and Serie Ass of the week. So lots to get through today. For all our first-time listeners, this is our free weekly episode that we do every Monday, reviewing the weekend Serie A action, all the biggest talking points in Italian football. If you want to support the Italian Football Podcast and receive all of our content that we do throughout the week, including a weekly Q&A episode every Tuesday, where we answer all of the questions from our patrons, plus the weekly Thursday midweek review show, plus interviews, post-match reaction, and much, much more, then go to patreon.com/TIFP and become a subscriber for just $2.99 a month, plus VAT. You can also sign up to be a paid subscriber on Spotify. We'll provide the link in the description. It's the same price, same terms. And for all of you that do listen on Spotify, on Apple, on iTunes podcasts, we'd really appreciate if you give us a 5-star rating, give us a follow and a like. We're on YouTube as well. All of this really help us grow and do more quality content for you guys. Okay, let's get into today's show. So we'll start at the bottom end of the table. It's Nima's favourite time of the year, the relegation deciders at the end. And it really was. It lived up to all the promise, didn't it, Nima? You've been building this up for weeks, months even, saying it's going to be the most dramatic Serie A ending. And it was the most dramatic of Serie A endings. As I said at the top, the 93rd minute we were in, and Frosinone was safe. They were going to stay up. Then Empoli score in the 93rd minute of their game against Roma. The score's at 1-1. Niang belts one in, 2-1 to Empoli. Empoli stay up. Frosinone, who were losing 1-0 to Udinese, and they only needed a draw to stay up. Frosinone in this game, they get relegated. I mean, Nima, what did you make of all that?
It was unbelievable. It was truly, it was just such a joy to watch that, because I had both games on at the same time, and I just felt what I remember at halftime. I was messaging with someone. I was saying, look, there's no doubt in my mind that Empoli are going to score at the death, because the more this game goes on and it's a draw, the less they're going to be interested. That Roma are gonna, like, their interest is gonna wane off, because it's they've already secured it. They knew they weren't going to play in the Champions League. They're going to finish 5th. They've got nothing to play for, and Empoli are going to be more and more desperate and more like, not desperate, but more and more anxious and more and more eager to win. And Roma are just not going to care. So there's going to be someone making a mistake, and something's going to happen. And that's exactly so I knew that was going to happen. The question for me was, can Udinese react to that? And I was worried. I was really worried, because if you were watching that game, Frosinone looked more likelier to score in that game. They hit the crossbar, Sule with a fantastic free kick. There was so much going on. They felt more dangerous every time they attacked, and Udinese felt a bit nervous, and it felt like they were never going to score. They couldn't even, they struggled. They were solid defensively. They didn't look like they were going to fall apart defensively or anything like that. They were actually pretty solid. But it just felt like, given that in attack, they just couldn't seem to.
No, they didn't create anything really, other than that chance Brenner had very early in the game. But after that, it was like you said, if there was one team that was going to score, it was going to be Frosinone. You couldn't see Udinese really scoring in this game.
No, you couldn't. And
their
their tactic was to keep Lorenzo Luca and play long balls on him. And given how big and strong he is in the air, that's actually not a bad idea. But the problem was they couldn't deliver any balls into the area to him. And they started doing so midway through the second half, and that's when he won every single time the challenges there, right? So, but they still didn't create anything until, of course, the goal came, and it obviously came from Lorenzo Luca winning a challenge, a challenge in the air. And Keenan Davis, the Englishman,
first goal of the season.
Yeah, first goal of the season. I mean, what a time to do it. And I got to hand it to Cannavaro. Ever since coming up, he's really stabilized Udinese. They've really, really become difficult again. They've become this grinding, annoying side that are difficult to play against, that are difficult to break down.
He actually hasn't lost since he took over Cannavaro. 5 games. It's very late in the season. He actually hasn't lost a game in an actual game. Like he did lose when they replayed, they resumed from the 73rd minute against Roma, and they conceded like a 94th minute goal. But I mean, you can't count that as a game. It wasn't a game, and it was about 2 days after he took up an actual 90-minute match. He hasn't lost. He's been unbeaten, 1-2, drawn 3. And so he's done. We have to take our hat off to Cannavaro. He's done an incredible job, really, to keep them up in what was a really difficult situation that he inherited from
and they've done so, like they've shown real character when doing so. I mean, they drew against Napoli, equalized late against Napoli at home. They scored that penalty in the 14th minute of added time against Empoli. They've shown character, and they really, they've done really well, and they've 1-1 against Napoli, 1-1 against Bologna, two wins against Lecce, one away. Well, both games away, Frosinone and Lecce, not easy places to go to, and only conceded 3 goals in these 5 games. I think he's done really well, but Udinese have to, moving forward, they need a serious project. They've always been such a well-run club, and the Pozzos have to now really decide what they're going to do with Udinese. Like, are they going to, they need to build something serious there, because Udinese are good enough to be in the Serie A, but they've been balancing very dangerously ever since Sottil got sacked. But I'm looking for a serious project moving forward, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and we'll see if Cannavaro stays.
I've just got to say one thing though: Maduka Okoye, the goalkeeper.
Yeah, he was
wow, wow! What an athletic goalkeeper he is! What a shot stopper he is!
For his size, he's 6'6". For his size, he's very, very, very athletic.
And he moves. He looks so light and nimble in the way he moves. He looks so easy. He's 197, like you said, 197 centimeters tall. He's a big guy. And he's... No,
I still use feet.
Stop doing that. No, but he was really good, and he has been good for quite some time. And they were solid, Udinese. And they, Cannavaro has really structured them, and it was very nice to see, speaking of Cannavaro, him and his brother going up to Eusebio Di Francesco afterwards and console him. It was very, very
well, yeah. I mean, that was talking about that was so horrible to see. I mean, he was heartbroken. The poor guy, he was inconsolable. And you have to feel sorry for Di Francesco. You could see how much it meant to him, and you can tell that he just felt crushed. He felt crushed by what happened. I mean, can you imagine that? In the 93rd minute, you think you're staying up, and then and they didn't deserve it. Let's be honest, they didn't deserve to lose this game, and they didn't really. If we're honest, they didn't really deserve. I don't think they deserve to get relegated either. If we look over the course of the season, I don't think they deserve to go down. But it's this is what happens. I mean, they had an incredible start to the season for us. I mean, they were almost the revelation of the first quarter of the season. They were flying high in the European places. And then it just all fell apart, didn't it, in the second half of the season? And, we said, should have Di Francesco been sacked? I mean, looking back now, I guess the answer is yes, they should have done. Because they've the ultimate fate now, haven't they?
One of our patrons reminded me what I said ahead of this season, because I had Frosinone going down. I think I had Verona going down, and I think I had Empoli going down. But one of our patrons reminded me, said what I said before the season, that this is probably the last chance of Di Francesco in the Serie A, in the sense that, just like Filippo Inzaghi, I don't think he will get another chance with another Serie A side unless it's as a traghettatore, or if it's a team that he gets promoted from the Serie B to the Serie A. Because the way that they have collapsed this second half of the season is unforgivable, and it's typical of Eusebio Di Francesco, and just goes to show that there is no development there. This is who he is. It's that simple. This is who this man is. Technically, tactically, this is who he is. This is what happens with Di Francesco, and that's unfortunately when this is proven to be the situation. Then clubs are weary. They watch that, they understand that, and I don't think we're going to see. This was the last chance for him to have a meaningful Serie A career. I don't think he will. I don't think he will.
In some ways, I'm kind of glad that Frosinone went down, because they played really good. They played good football. They were enjoyable to watch. They've been refreshing for Serie A. Certainly in the first half of the season, they were a refreshing team to watch, which is good. We want to see small teams that have a go at the big teams. It makes it entertaining. But also at the same time, a lot of their team is made up of loan players, and I don't know. There's something about that I don't like. In some ways, they had lots of players on loan from Juventus, from other clubs, and so I think even if they'd have stayed up like next season, their team would have been gutted in the summer because they'd have lost everyone, or the loan players would have returned. So I don't know. Maybe it's for the best for Serie A that they're not there. But then there's Empoli as well. Davide Nicola. This guy talking about survival specialist.
I love him.
He is. Is there a bigger survival specialist than him? He's like, I don't know what he is. He's. I'm trying to think of
yeah. Listen, what he did with Salernitana last season is just miraculous, and it is miraculous. It was bound to happen. It was just one of the greatest escapes we've ever seen. And he was bound to get sacked, because we know this is what he does. Davide Nicola, this is what he does. He waltzes in, he rides in when things are chaotic, he stabilizes, he survives, and then he should be, he should leave until the next damsel in distress in the Serie A needs his help. That's just what he is. But it's just unbelievable.
Because this Empoli team for me is a relegation team on paper.
No doubt.
I think that on paper, like looking at the actual players in the teams, like Sassuolo and Frosinone on paper, I think should stay up based on the
so should Salernitana for me. In my opinion, on paper, Empoli, Cagliari, Verona are the worst. They are genuinely bad. It's just, fact that
I agree.
Baroni's got Verona at 13 is mental. It's just Cagliari, Granieri, what he's done with Cagliari is truly remarkable.
Yeah.
So no, it's and of course Davide Nicola, he's just, the shoe thrower lives to throw another shoe. What can I say?
No, for sure. And It's incredible job. So that's the relegation race then. Frosinone, Sassuolo, and Salernitana go down. Parma and Como are already promoted from Serie B, and then the winner, Cremonese and Venezia in the Serie B promotion playoff, will be the final team to make up. It's going to be interesting next season actually to see because I think obviously depends on what happens in the transfer market, but I feel like Parma and Como could have a chance of staying up next season if
Parma for sure. I think Parma will.
Yeah.
Parma, I have lots of faith in. Parma is it's a stable ownership. It's a stable project. He knows what, he took some time for him to find his feet with Kraus, but now that he has, they look good. I think Parma, they should be in the bottom half, but I do expect them to stay up. I look at Parma as a little bit like a Genoa. They'll survive. Como, I think, will struggle. Even though
it depends on the transfer market, though, and it's too early to say now. Like they've got money. I mean, their owners are ridiculously rich, so it depends really what their plans are. We don't really know right now just what their plans are, but it's
but Venezia, I don't know. I mean, Cremonese we've already had. Venezia we had also so recently. I don't know who I prefer out of those two. I just know that I think, just tell you what, just because of the looks, because this is the Serie A, this is fashion. Venezia's kits and Venezia's fashion expression, and their way that they market themselves is second to none. Like they are so damn good at it. And also because you have to take a boat to the stadium, I'm gonna go. I hope Venezia come up.
I also don't like the fact that I don't like the fact that Venezia are now taxing tourists to go to the city. So I'm
But they do that for everyone. You pay. No, but you pay a city tax everywhere. When I was in Milan, you pay per night, per person. It's a new thing. It's been in Italy for quite a few years. You have to pay, depending on when, but you pay like €5 to €8 per night per person when you stay, the tourist tax. That's just Italy. It's not just Venezia. I paid it. Yeah, but Venice, it's not just Venice. It's everywhere.
They've recently introduced it, haven't they? In Venice from last month.
Yeah, but it's been. I mean, in Milan, I've been paying that tax for years. Every time you go, you pay a tourist tax per person per night, and it varies depending on the year. So it's not new for Venezia. It's just one of them things.
Okay,
a few couple of euros extra a month.
Bloody taxes everywhere. Just parked my car in London this morning. They're now charging a carbon tax on car parking, which just doesn't make any sense at all. You're parking your car. Why are you charging a carbon tax for parking your? Anyway, I'm not going to go off on one on that. Let's go to the sixth place now. The next big thing that needs to be cleared up on the final day of the season. So Atalanta, what a week it has been for Atalanta. And they won, of course, the Europa League by thrashing Bayer Leverkusen in the final. The previously invincible, 51 games unbeaten Bayer Leverkusen. Magical performance. And they took that through and had an identical result against Torino, winning 3-0. And that result moves them into the top four now. They're up to fourth, above Bologna. And they will finish third if they beat Fiorentina this weekend in the rearranged game. And it's that result means that Roma now, even though Roma did, of course, as we just said, they went on to lose against Empoli. But going into this final weekend, Roma still did have a chance of a Champions League qualification spot. They basically needed Atalanta to take no more than 1 point from their last two games, and then they needed both Juventus and Bologna to win their final games. And Bologna lost, as we'll come to, Juventus won, but it obviously the Bologna loss and the fact that Atalanta won meant that Roma are now going to be in the Europa League. And so taking this first from Atalanta, then we'll come to Roma. From Atalanta, it was just another dominant win, wasn't it? I mean, Scamacca, another brilliant goal. I mean, it's becoming a bit of a trademark, that goal, isn't it? Getting it on the half turn, turning and just smashing one in from just the edge of the area or just outside the area. I mean, he's Another great goal from Scamacca. And Lookman again as well. An much easier goal than the ones he scored against Leverkusen. And a Pasalic penalty as well. I mean, magical week for Atalanta.
It really is. Scamacca scored 20 goals in all competitions this season, if I'm not mistaken. It's 12 in the Serie A. He's really having a fantastic second half of the season, and he's starting to do all the things that I was expecting him to do throughout. Look, Atalanta are on cloud nine, and I think, to be honest with you, it could be, we're not going to talk about it, but if Atalanta win against Fiorentina, they finish third. And that is brilliant. That is so well done. That is an overachievement. It could be a meeting between the Conference League winners and the Europa League winners, which would be fantastic if that could happen. We could have two.
It'd be a nice celebration, wouldn't it, to end the season? I know it comes in difficult circumstances because they're only playing this game because of the death, of course, of Joe Barone. But it would be, I guess there would be something nice to celebrate, wouldn't it? Both of them winning.
It would be cool if before the game, if they could organise so that both trophies are on the pitch, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Like if they could do something where both, if Fiorentina were to win, if they could kind of do something where they took a photo of both teams with the trophies before the game. Because this is going to be an exhibition game. It has absolutely no impact on the league table. It has no impact on anything. It doesn't mean anything. So it's an exhibition game. So you might as well turn it into a celebratory performance if Fiorentina are to win the Conference League. Yeah. Basically, just, have both teams come out, with the trophies at hand, have a mixed kind of lineup thing with both trophies. Do you know what I mean? Like, just go with it.
No, it would be cool, but we have to make sure that Fiorentina win that trophy first.
Yeah, and also Atalanta will play the winner of the Champions League and the Super Cup, and that would be so cool.
Yeah, Real Madrid, or Dortmund. We were all assuming it would be Real Madrid, but yeah, that would be amazing. Imagine them playing Real Madrid. That would be just it's just incredible, isn't it?
And
just to
think about it. If Fiorentina and Real Madrid win the Conference and Champions League, all three European Cups will have been won by an Italian manager.
There you go. Yeah, they'll be all won by Italians. Yeah, Milan refused to even consider him Italian.
No,
Italian
it's
coach.
Not true. You can't keep saying this.
I am going to keep saying it
because it's not true. You can't say that. It makes no sense. Why would Furlani and Jerry Cardinale
because they didn't speak to a single Italian coach?
They did.
They didn't.
There was no.
They did not hold a single discussion with an Italian manager. So take it what you want. Maybe just a coincidence.
I'm not sure that's what they did.
All the best coaches in the world. They just decided not to even hold discussions with him.
Well, yeah, because the ones that were available didn't fit the mold. I mean, it's not anti-Italian discrimination. You can't.
Didn't fit the mold of not being Italian. Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Didn't fit the mold. Anyway, Roma. About Roma, then they don't qualify for the Champions League. This could have repercussions on the transfer market and maybe the future of some players too. I think potentially because. Well, we know now for sure. I don't think they have the intention of keeping him anyway, but for sure they can't afford to keep Lukaku anymore. That's for certain now. So he's done now at Roma, Lukaku. Then there's the question of Dybala. Will he stay? He's got 1 year left on his contract. He has a very, very small release clause, which is valid during the month of July for a period in July. And then there's also, some of the more kind of ambitious players that they were looking at ahead of the summer. I mean, they've been linked to like Chiesa, Di Lorenzo, these kind of players. I just don't see it happening financially, let alone if we're looking at it from a sporting point of view of not being in the Champions League for these type of players that might want to move there. And then, of course, there is these numbers get put about all the time. I've seen them be put about with Roma in the past, seen it be put about with Inter, with Juventus, and they say they have to make X amount by 30th of June, the end of the financial year. And very, very rarely does it actually end up being anything close to that number. So I'm not holding this as being gospel, but the word that has been around is that they need to make 60 million capital gains by the end of June. Now, I don't really believe that will be the case because I think that these numbers that get thrown around and always end up being unreliable. But they do have to make quite some significant capital gains plus Valenza by the end of June to balance the books. And, I think being in the Champions League obviously would have made that much, much easier, wouldn't it?
No, of course. It does. It's a difficult situation for Roma, because, and I'm worried if Dybala leaves. I really think. I mean, Lukaku's gonna leave. There's no doubt about that. With if Antonio Conte goes to Napoli, I think there could be actually and Victor Osimhen being sold. Maybe, who knows? Because we know how Antonio Conte is. If he decides that he needs someone, then he will demand Lukaku. But we'll see, and already that could be a problem between De Laurentiis and Conte. But regardless, I don't see Lukaku staying at Roma. Dybala, I think, is probably going to be sold because they can raise revenue for him. I don't know, man. Like it's going to be very difficult. It was very important for them to reach the Champions League because of this. But now that it's happened, it's going to be a difficult summer. It's going to require the new sporting directors to do something, to pull rabbits out of hats again, and they already kind of did that last summer. Given the situation they're in, it is difficult for them. Remember, they're still in the settlement agreement with UEFA as well, so just like Juve and Inter, but of course Juve and Inter have Inter at least have already announced that they have followed and respected those parameters. They did that months ago, and that they're on course to do that next summer as well. So for them, it's not a problem. But for Roma, this is going to be painful, and I think it's such a difficult. It's so annoying because it's as if the next season is already a write-off and it hasn't even started yet, and it's just so annoying because Roma deserve better, and then you look over to England and you see certain clubs getting away with whatever they want, literal murder, and not literal, but proverbial financial murder. They do whatever they want and nothing happens. It's annoying, it's frustrating, because Roma, the Friedkins have been trying to, basically all they've done since they've taken over the club is trying to clean up the mess from Palotta and the previous regime, and that's all they've done. And if you take that into consideration, you can't really fault them for what they've done. But at least they have the manager in place. They have the sporting situation resolved. Now they need to find players and have a proper preseason. Osmun is a player who Bayer Leverkusen wants to sell. Roma can't afford. He's not exactly getting any younger either. We know that they like him. He likes them. But I mean, it's going to be a difficult summer of puzzling things together, fitting, jigsaw puzzling for Roma, given that they're out of the Champions League. And I wonder if Dybala could not be sacrificed this summer. And if I'm looking at teams that could buy him, Dybala, given how I'm looking at Inter immediately, because Sanchez is
formation,
leaving. Yeah, Sanchez is leaving. Taremi is coming in to replace him. We don't know what's going to happen with Arnautovic. Inter want to strengthen. They're looking at Goodmanson, but I think he's going to cost a little bit too much given the Premier League interest in him. They're going to need to, if they sell Denzel Dumfries, they're going to have to sign a replacement right back or a left wing back if they want to play Buchanan on the right. Is Buchanan ready to start? And so on. And then, of course, the central defense situation, because De Vrij and Acerbi ain't getting any, younger. And I would suggest that Acerbi, there has been a significant decline, or a visible decline, at least, at the very least. So, no, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. There's a lot of jigsaw puzzling happening.
Yeah, sure is. Okay, so that's the Champions League, sixth place settled there. So the teams that will be in the Champions League will be Inter, Milan, Juventus, Atalanta, and Bologna. Roma are in the Europa League. So are Lazio. And then this is where it starts to get a little bit more complicated. So the ninth place situation. Currently, Fiorentina are in eighth. They beat Cagliari 3-2. So Fiorentina clinch European football. And and they will be, as it stands, in the Conference League for next season in 8th place. But if they win against Olympiacos in the final of the Conference League, they will go into the Europa League for next season, and it means that 9th place in Serie A will open up for the Conference League place. Now, going into this final weekend of the season, there were 2 teams that were fighting it out for 9th place: Torino and Napoli. Now, Torino, as we've already discussed, they got thrashed 3-0 by Atalanta. They took 0 points. And that meant that Napoli only needed to beat Lecce at home at the San Paolo to qualify for the Conference League. Well, not to qualify, to give them a chance of qualifying for the Conference League. That they would qualify for the Conference League if they beat Lecce and then Fiorentina won the Conference League final. And you think, surely Napoli will beat Lecce at home. Lecce got nothing to play for. And they don't beat Lecce. They fail to do it. They draw 0-0. And it's a game that kind of in many ways summed up Napoli's season. I watched this game, and the second half, Napoli had chance after chance after chance after chance. They hit the post twice. The finishing was abysmal, snatching at shots. And they failed to score. And they finished the season 10th. It's the first season in 14 years that Napoli are out of Europe. It's incredible, really.
It's the first time since Napoli came back. The second from the first season they came back to the Serie A under De Laurentiis, they didn't finish in a European spot. The second season they did, and then since then they've always been in Europe. That streak now comes to a halt, and that's a negative. If you win the league in record-breaking fashion and then finish 10th on 53 points when you won it on 90, I mean, it's been an absolute disaster of a season for Napoli. But, and this is a big but.
Well, it's the worst. Let me just stop you there. It's the worst defense of a Serie A title.
No, of course it is. There's no doubt about that. But there's a big but here. If you have one game a week to worry about, and your coach is Antonio Conte,
yeah. Indeed.
I mean, Napoli, just by virtue of that, are Scudetto favourites. Do you know what I mean?
He's done it twice before.
Yeah, I mean, Antonio Conte coming in when he's only got one, with his obsessive personality, and how meticulous he is, and the tactical genius he is, and he looks at the Serie A calendar as 38 finals, which is how he will view it. Then Napoli, just by virtue of that, will be Scudetto candidates. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's if of course this deal goes through, which I still am very skeptical of. I don't know, man. I just can't. De Laurentiis and Conte really working together. I don't know, man.
I think this has been such a historic failure from Napoli that De Laurentiis, I think, he's a proud man, and I think he even though he may not admit it, deep down he probably feels really hurt by what's happened this season and just how bad it's been, and it's going to bring him into a reaction, and that reaction is he's got to do something. And that is to get a big name like Conte that shows that he's doing something about it, and that's why I think.
Yeah, but I agree with that. I agree with all of that. But the problem here is that this dear man will Conte comes in, he will demand things. Conte doesn't ask for things, he demands things. And if he doesn't get them, he has meltdowns.
That's further down the line, isn't it? I mean, we're talking about is he going to get the job.
Well, no, that's day one. Day one. He started moaning about Inter. He started moaning at Inter about 7 days in, when the preseason had started and all the signings weren't done yet. Already then he started complaining about Barella and Barella and Lukaku not being signed. So this is just it's going to be entertaining if Conte. Look, from a selfish point of view, I hope Conte goes to Napoli because it would be unbelievably entertaining. Are you kidding
I think
me?
it would be great for
Like,
the. I think it would be great for the Serie A as well. In that we've got a lot of new managers, but we've got a Juventus team that have got one of the most exciting young coaches in Europe coming to the club to hopefully start to rebuild them. Inzaghi's still going to be there. Okay, Milan Fonseca we're not too hot on, but it's a new coach, so it's
yeah,
new. There's the unknown there to an extent.
there's an unknown factor. Yeah,
Well, there's the unknown factor about what could happen there. You've got Atalanta, who, as we said on the last show last week after the Leverkusen game, like we obviously it depends what they do in the transfer market, but and we didn't say that Gasperini is now staying at Atalanta, and apparently, according to reports, has been promised two big signings, and that Atalanta are not going to weaken through sales this summer. So where can Atalanta go? Because we both believe that they haven't actually this current iteration of Gasperini hasn't actually peaked yet. So what about Atalanta? And then now, you imagine if Antonio Conte takes over at Napoli. You're looking at really the big teams all potentially being real kind of heavyweights next season.
yeah,
It's very, very exciting. And then if you go a little bit further down the ladder, you've got Tudor, who's had an excellent start with Lazio. Okay, I'm not saying they're going to challenge for Scudetto, but they're going to, they can cause trouble to the other teams. You've got, okay, Roma, we'll see what happens with Roma. Fiorentina are going to have a new manager. Bologna are going to have a new manager. I mean, there's going to be so much change. I think next season is going to be really, really exciting. I really do. I think it's
I
going to
think
be
it's gonna. I
fascinating.
agree with you. I think after 2 years where we've seen one team run away with the Scudetto, I think next season it's going to be a nail biter to the end. I really think so.
Yeah.
I really
It's
think
too
so.
early
And
to
it's a,
say. It's too early to say about the schedule. I mean, obviously, Inter right now are going to be big favourites, but obviously, we don't actually know. Also, don't know what's going to happen with Inter because of Oak Tree. But I think right
yeah,
now, of course, Inter are the favourites. But I'm just talking more about the fact that there's more. There's going to be more unknown to Serie A. Like I think I'm not
for
saying
sure.
Serie A is never boring. It's too exciting. There's too much stuff that happens off the pitch that even away from the actual football itself. But because we're having so many new managers. This so much change this summer. That is going to bring new excitement. It's not going to be. We're not. After a while. Like for example, this year, like with Allegri, like I don't even need to watch Juventus anymore. I already know how the game's going to go in terms of the patterns of play, in terms of this and that. And the same happens in other ways with other teams. You get used to them. You know what to expect. You know that Milan are going to go on patchy. They're going to go through patchy wins, and they're going to go some patchy losses, and then they're going to score a lot, but they're going to concede a lot. You know what to expect. There's so much going to be so much unexpected next season. So I think next season is going to be great.
No, definitely going to be. And I think if Atalanta keep all of their important players and strengthen with one or two, for me, like I said on the Thursday pod, what is there? Like, give me an argument as to if they keep their coach, if they keep all their key players, and they strengthen with one or two players, given that they're going to be in the Champions League, given that the revenue has increased from the Champions League, given that they are such a well-run club, financially stable. So, show me an argument as to why Gasperini and this Atalanta can't be in the Scudetto race next season. As dark horses, of course. They're never going to be favorites. That's just ridiculous. But show me why they can't be a dark horse to win it.
No, right now. I mean, obviously, that the transfer market will determine a lot. It's impossible
Mm,
right now but
mm,
as it stands, it's very well set up for an amazing 2024-25 season. Amazing. Let's move
mm.
on though. Let's move on to. We'll go through these quickly because there isn't really that much to talk about. But first of all, Verona Inter. I mean, there was a nothing game, nothing to play for. 2-2.
Yeah.
It finishes. Was there anything to draw from this game of interest?
Yeah, one thing I really liked was the move for Inter's equalizer to 2-2. Barella cross diagonal ball, Thuram dropping deep, Arnautovic and Fratesi pushing forward from deep instantaneously when that ball is played. Fratesi chests it down, Arnautovic on the half volley. No, that was the most interesting thing from a tactical point of view. I thought it was really, really interesting to see. Another Inzaghi training ground movement, triangles that he likes to play. These kind of these one-touch triangle movements that he likes to do with these players. And again, it was a really, really nice goal. For that, that's what I thought was the most interesting in this game. Other than that, it was just it was a kickabout.
Yeah,
It
another
wasn't
goal for
anything.
Tijani Noslin for
Yeah.
Verona, who I think has been one of the signings of the season, as
Mm.
part of this incredible turnaround at Verona in January, where they sold basically the whole team and brought in all these players that no one had heard of, and he was one of them. And he's been a revelation. He's been really, really great, and maybe someone to the bigger clubs, slightly bigger clubs, will be maybe looking at this summer. I think
Mm.
he's had such an impact. And I don't think Verona could have stayed up without him. I think he's had that much of an impact this second half of the season. So yeah, he scored again. Let's move on to Milan. Incredibly entertaining game, 3-3 draw.
Very.
Probably summed up, of course, Stefano Pioli's time at Milan. But I mean, the big talking points are the final farewell of Pioli. I thought before the game there was a beautiful gesture where all the Milan players unexpectedly huddled around in a circle, encircled Pioli. He was in the middle and applauded him and the crowd, and I thought that was really lovely. That was a lovely little goodbye. And then Giroud, of course, his
I have
last
to
game.
give I have to give credit to Milan for how they've handled this Pioli thing. The way that they announced it, the announcement, the press release on their homepage, the video of the kid talking about how Pioli brought Milan back to where we should be and dreaming again. And I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was very, very well handled. I thought it was very elegant. I thought it was very classy. Um, and they should be commended for that. I thought it was very nice, and it was nice to see Pioli kind of take a bow, and say goodbye to Milan on his terms. Um, and everyone basically, turning up for that, because I do think it's the right decision. I think what he has done at Milan, and we've said it many, many times, I just want to say one last time, I think he will be remembered as with great fondness as the coach who brought Milan back into the warmth from the wilderness. You know, where Milan were, where he started, what he does, what he leaves, where he leaves Milan at now that he leaves, is night and day. And the fact that they won a Scudetto, 86 points, incredible. Lots of young players developed under him. Got to the semi-final of the Champions League, got back to the Champions League, got to the semi-final of the Champions League. That's where Milan's history deserves. They deserve to win trophies. They deserve to be in the latter stages of Europe's number one competition. And Pioli gave them a taste of that. I think he got the maximum out of the players available to him through these years. And I also think it's the right move to say goodbye to him
Yeah,
and move
in the
forward
day, it's a process. Milan was starting from closer to Z than to A,
to A.
and Pioli has taken them up the alphabet
Yeah.
towards A, but he wasn't the man to take them to A. And maybe, I think, listen, like you've said it, you've summed it up perfectly. I think he's done, he'll be remembered fondly. He's done a wonderful job. He won a Scudetto unexpectedly and much earlier than was planned and expected at Milan. He gave the team an identity. He took over when they were a complete mess. He developed young players, helped develop these players. He was part of the identity. He was a good, he didn't cause any trouble, and but at the same time, he probably stayed at least probably a year too long. Let's say that he stayed a year too long at Milan. They probably should have parted ways this time last year. But he still, regardless of what's happened this season, he still leaves them in a good place for the next manager. Like if you look at the team,
Mm.
There is a core there that I believe that with that core, if they don't, sacrifice, as long as they don't sacrifice more than one of their big names this summer. Say if they just lose Magnon, but they keep Teo and Rafael Leao, for example, there's a core of team there that's young enough and has enough
Absolutely.
quality players among that core that with a good transfer market, if they play their cards right, I think definitely can be a Scudetto challenger. next season. Should be aiming to try and win the Scudetto. Not saying they will. They should feel confident enough that they've got a team that can challenge and can win the Scudetto. Because I believe that the core of it all depends on getting this transfer market right, buying the right players, and also getting the right manager. Now it seems Fonseca's going to come in. We're not that sold by him. And I think Arrigo Sacchi said exactly the same things that we said on the pod last week. All the points we made, the point that I made especially, look at what place he's finished with Lille in his 2 seasons at Lille, and look at where he finished in his 2 seasons with Roma. That isn't befitting of a club like Milan. But he could prove us wrong. He could prove
Absolutely.
to be the right manager. And if that's the case, Milan have the cards there to push on. So,
well, the thing is, like I said on Thursday, my thing with Fonseca that I'm critical of is more on the perspective that I think when you change managers, you should bring in a manager. There's 2 ways you can do it. Either you want to start from scratch, or you want a manager to come in to build upon and develop what the previous manager did, depending on the makeup and dynamic of the squad that he's taking over. For me, Fonseca is more of a purely 2.0. It's a continuation. It's not as much a development as it is a continuation, with the difference, of course, that Paulo Fonseca is well, yes, he does have hair, his own, but also the fact that, it could be a situation where they look at him and they go, well, they like how the vibe he has in the dressing room, that he's maybe more assertive than Pioli was, because one of the criticisms against Pioli was that he wasn't very assertive, that he did, that he lacked in leadership. Fonseca, they believe, has that, and I think that's a fair assessment. My only thing is that I just don't think that Paulo Fonseca can. I think he will develop these players because he's always developed players. That's nothing new. That's what he does. He's a good solid Portuguese coach. I just don't think he's got what it takes at the very top clubs.
I think.
Let me just finish. He failed at Porto. He got sacked there 9 months in. He got chased out of Roma. He's done one at Lille. He's done one at Shakhtar. I think he kind of ticks the boxes that the Milan management were looking for. I just hope they were looking for different boxes, is my point. That's the only thing. But we'll see.
No, I think look, on paper it looks very much, and Sacchi said exactly the same thing. On paper, it looks very much like a sideways move for Milan.
Yeah.
For Milan, that is, it's a step up for Fonseca, of course. It's the biggest job of his career. So that's it. If you're going to get rid of Pioli, you upgrade. It doesn't feel like an upgrade. Certainly not based on what he's done in his career. But we will see. Moving on.
Just what Sacchi said, I think is really well. He said, "I expected more. I expected a bigger name," and I guess for me, it's not just the name, but it's also the tactical, growth or the tactical next step. And that's why I've been non-stop talking about Sarri. For me, the next step after Pioli is Maurizio Sarri. Now, I understand that there are other dynamics at play here. Maurizio Sarri is very combative, and the Milan ownership don't want someone who rocks the boat. And I think that's also, they don't want to, and partly the reason why they kind of I think they sidestepped Antonio Conte as well, is not just, although I think that the tactical aspect of going to a back three and his wages was more important there. I just think Fonseca ticked their boxes. I just hope they had different boxes, if you know what I mean, if that makes sense. I just wish they had different requirements. But we'll see. Like I said, if I'm wrong and Milan, he's a success at Milan, I'll be the first to hold my hand up and say I was wrong. But we'll see.
Yeah, just also on Milan, last game for Simon Kjaer and also for Olivier Giroud, who scores on his last game. So that is a great way to bow out, isn't it? And he, as we said when he left, when it was announced that he was leaving, he's had a fantastic 3 years at Milan and was the key man, really, I think, in that Scudetto victory. He scored the key goals that won them the Scudetto in the run-in. So he will also, like Pioli, be very, very fondly remembered, Olivier Giroud. and he will also retire. He's announced he will retire from France national team after Euro 2024. Let's move on to Juventus. Talking about players bowing out, who would have thought that Alexandro would have been the big story from this game against Monza? It was his last match as well, Alexandro. He really did steal the show here, and it really was quite moving. He went off in tears to a standing ovation. He really did capture the hearts of all the fans in the stadium, many of whom have been very, very critical of Alexandro for probably the second half of his career. I mean, Alexandro was someone who had probably a tale of two careers at Juventus. The first half of his time there, in 9 years, he was outstanding and one of the best in the world in his role as a left back. Lots of big offers from clubs. I remember Chelsea, Juventus rejecting a huge offer from Chelsea probably about 4 or 5 years ago. But in the second half of his time at Juventus, he really did. He's really fell off a cliff, and he's been a figure of fun for a few years, and almost a symbol of how badly mismanaged Juventus have been. The fact that he was given this huge salary, the third or fourth biggest salary in the league, at a time when he was clearly declining and aging, and who also was signed into his contract a clause in his contract that would see his contract renewed for an extra year, which is what happened at the end of last year, and his contract got renewed for an extra year, even though he was so finished. But he played this last game against Monza, and he scored. He scored the second goal in a 2-0 win. And when he was substituted off in the second half, I mean, he broke down in tears, and then he embarked on a kind of like Del Piero did on his final game for Juventus. The game was still going on, and he just walked around the whole stadium, applauding the fans, taking their scarves. I mean, it really was. It was like, this is Alexandro doing this. And he was doing it like he was a Del Piero or a Totti or a Javier Zanetti, like he was like a club icon. It was hilarious, but like it was so moving. Like the fans like really took to it, and they were chanting his name, and I just it was just quite bizarre, but also quite amazing at the same time.
Yeah, no, it was fun. It was funny. But it's also, I mean, we're talking about someone who's won 11 trophies at Juve, and that's quite a lot. And so, it is one of the last, like you said, the first half of his career at Juve. He was one of those, he was part of that, 9 years, winning everything in Italy.
People forget though, Nima, what an outstanding player he was at the start. The first half, he was brilliant. He was one of the best in the world in his position. I mean, kind of around like his first season when he wasn't like playing every game, and then kind of like 2015, 16, 17 kind of years, he was really outstanding. He really was. And he was such a force down that left-hand side, and he improved defensively as the years went by as well. And I remember him in the game against Bayern Munich when Juventus had so many players out, and he played in a kind of a left wing position when they went 2-0 up, and they conceded that late goal and ended up losing 4-2. I mean, he really was a great player. But yeah, it's nice to see him go out on a high. Chiesa scored a lovely goal. He was really, really great in this game. And no coincidence that Allegri leaves and Chiesa scores 2 games in a row for only the second time in the last 3 years. He was really, really good. He hit the post as well with a brilliant curling shot from outside the area. He had another chance from a Fagioli pass. We just have to hope that he takes us into the Euros. There have been some stories that have come out from Di Marzio claiming that Motta doesn't fancy him. I don't know how much I buy into that right now. Whether that's, I don't know, some mischief making, how much truth is into that, I don't know. Time will tell, I guess. We'll see. But really good to see Chiesa back. And also the other big story from this game was Fagioli's performance. He played really, really well in this game for somebody that hasn't played at all season, and everybody was laughing at him being called up for the Euros. He was really quite excellent in this game. He hit the bar. He had the assist for the Sandro goal, though of course it was a corner. but an absolutely magical chipped pass for when he put Chiesa through, and Chiesa had a chance to score a second in the second half. It was really, really good performance from Fagioli. So it makes you think that, maybe there was some method in the madness of calling up Fagioli. Maybe Spalletti saw something. Maybe he's going to have that, that energy from not playing all season. I don't know. I don't know how much you can read into a game that was a nothing game again, like the Inter game, nothing to play for, just people kind of just like an exhibition game. But he was really good. He was really, really good. That's
Look,
it.
I think Spalletti, he deserves, he deserves to be given the benefit of the doubt. His career warrants it. But that doesn't mean that we can't ask questions. I think it's a mistake to not include Locatelli in the 30-man shortlist. I think that's a huge mistake. Whether or not, depending on how he wants to play, Fagioli is right or wrong, that depends to be seen on the pitch, because, we got a question on that on the Q&A pod as well, which I'm going to delve into more deeply for patrons only on patreon.com/TIFB. But I do want to say that my only criticism is that I don't understand why Locatelli isn't at least in the 30-shot man list. That's my point. Fagioli could be exactly what you said, and of course, like I said, if anyone deserves to be given the benefit of the doubt on these things, it is Luciano Spalletti, because he's a brilliant tactician. He's proven throughout his career that he knows how to pick the right players at the right time, especially young ones. He can develop them and make them take this final step to, if not world class, then at least world class adjacent in many roles, and we've seen it with him. He's unbelievable with that.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll have to wait.
The only other thing from this game is Di Gregorio, the Monza goalkeeper, waving goodbye to the Monza. So that is, I think, the confirmation that Di Gregorio is going to Juventus. 18 million. This is one which I don't know how to feel about this from Juventus' point of view, because I look at what are the priorities that Juventus need. They've got so much work that they've got to do in improving the team, so many gaps in their team. I'm looking at fullbacks. They need new fullbacks. They need at least one centre-back, maybe two centre-backs, especially if they're going to sell Bremer. They need probably two central midfielders. They need, more depth in attack. There's so many roles that I look at the goalkeeping position, and I think that, yes, okay, Szczesny's getting older. He's going to have to be replaced at some point. He's got a year left on his contract. But I think that, did Juventus need to go and spend 18 million this summer on Di Gregorio? I think it could have waited. I mean, listen, I think they would have needed to maybe next year. The top time would have come where, they have to move Szczesny on. But I don't know. I just, unless they've got a buyer for Szczesny or Perin, and they're going to make, a decent, at least a bit of cash off them, then maybe that offsets it. But I just feel like the money that they're spending, I feel like it should have been prioritised in other areas before you go to a position where, Szczesny's been fantastic, I think, this season. Been one of the few players for Juventus that's just performed really well this season. I just feel like it shouldn't have been a priority. That's my negative way.
Well, that's true, but at the same time, we don't know if maybe Szczesny's leaving in the summer.
Well, no, clearly somebody's leaving. One of Szczesny or Perin is leaving. That's obvious, because they're buying Di Gregorio. So one of the two is leaving. My point is, why spend now on Di Gregorio? Why not just keep Szczesny and Perin for another season? Strengthen the other areas which are more of a pressing concern. And then, if there's any money left over, you can sign Di Gregorio. But I just think that, okay, we'll see. Maybe they've done the maths, they've worked it out, they're going to have enough money. But for me,
I think they have. I think Giuntoli,
it shouldn't be a priority. That's what I'm saying.
No, but I think Giuntoli, if there's anything he's proven in his career, that he's actually pretty good with the maths. He has a plan. He knows what he's doing.
Do you know what it reminds me of? You'll enjoy this, and you're Inter, like in the late 90s, where they had like all the best midfielders and attackers in the world, and they come into a transfer market. And it's like, right, what's the priority this summer for Inter? Is it strengthening the defence, where we've got like players that need, like Francesco Colonese and players like that, or is it,
Domoro.
let's just sign another world-class attacker, make it like take us up to 6 world-class attackers. Like, do you know what I mean? I just think that there's priorities, and that's my. But I see why they want Di Gregorio, because I think he's the style that Motta wants. He wants his goalkeepers to be able to construct the play, and from what I've seen of him, I think he's pretty strong in that area. So with the ball at his feet and everything. So I think that's why he's going for him. And maybe that is one of the key parts of Motta's game. That is absolutely crucial. They has to have a goalkeeper that is really strong, building up from the back. So yeah, that's where we're at with Juventus. Let's just quickly go through the others, and we're going to do the Serie A team of the season. So Genoa, Bologna. Genoa win 2-0. All I want to say to this is, one, it's a shame, I think, that for Bologna to lose this game, because I feel like, look, they're probably going to finish fifth now. They are going to finish fifth, aren't they? Because Juventus and Atalanta go above them. I think that they had the chance to finish third, which would have really kind of, in the history book, sort of rubber stamped this historic season, finishing third versus finishing fifth. And I think they should have gone for it more. But that's just me being picky, I guess. But I just think
I know what you mean, but it's all academic at the end of because they've, if anyone hasn't seen those scenes at Bologna of celebrations, it's just unbelievable. The way that the last week, the whole city turned up for them. And praised them, and it's been an unbelievable season. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens moving forward and where this project goes, because from what I understand, Sartori's staying, so that's the most important thing. We'll see what happens with Calafiori. We'll see what happens with Zirkzee. Motta's already gone. Who comes in, and how do they, can they now have because they're also building their new stadium or refurbishing the old one, and there are plans to do that, and everything's looking good for them. So now they actually have kind of something in place to become the latest Atalanta, if you will. They have all the building blocks in place. If they play them correctly and smartly, they can do that, but they just need to get that coaching appointment right. And I wonder who that is. Is it Italiano? Is it Sarri? Watch this space. Or is it someone else? But I think it's one of those two.
Palladino could be one to watch, because he's also leaving Monza as well. Yeah. Palladino is leaving Monza. Yeah. Juric is leaving Torino as well. Yeah. So much coaching changes this summer. I mean, half the league is leaving. Half the league is changing managers, and there might be more as well. Yeah. So that's Bologna. Amazing season, historic season from Bologna. Lazio, nothing much to say here. 1-1 against Sassuolo. They've clinched Europa League. The only thing I want to say is the beautiful tifo. Sven-Goran Eriksson was continuing his farewell tour. Beautiful tifo, a magical tifo from the Lazio fans.
That was beautiful. It was moving, very moving, and very pretty. And it was nice for him to be able to go back to Lazio and be praised and receive the accolades that he so deserves. It was pretty. It was nice. And other than that, Zaccagni scored a free kick, which I thought was more a goalkeeping howler. It was a good shot, but I thought it was more of a goalkeeping howler than anything else. But no, it was a good game. It was a good way for them to say goodbye, and I like what Tudor is doing, and I hope that Kamada stays now, because I had him as my breakthrough player of the season in the Serie A, and I think that he never got on with Sarri, never worked out. But if he stays, and if he can be the kind of midfielder that Tudor wants to use him, I think they have potentially a gem on their hands, Lazio.
Yeah, he certainly suits Tudor's style of play a lot more than Sarri's style of play. That's for sure. The more energy, more vertical than Sarri. That's more his type of game, Kamada. The only other thing I wanted to say was Sassuolo. I'm very interested to see what happens to Berardi this summer. Does he finally leave Sassuolo, or does he play in Serie B with Sassuolo? I mean, surely he's got to leave, but then he's coming off a very, very serious injury. So who tries to sign him? Does he maybe stay at Sassuolo, maybe leave during the January transfer market? I don't know. It's quite an interesting one, isn't it? Because he's got this bad injury and he's going to be out. I'm not sure when he's back, but what happens to Domenico Berardi? Does he finally, he's going to be 30 this summer. Does he finally leave Sassuolo?
Very good question. I think he does, given that he wasn't even there when they got relegated. I think that's
He
a
didn't
very
even
clear
bother.
signal that he didn't even bother. He wants to leave.
So weird, isn't it? Someone so loyal to Sassuolo all these years, and he doesn't turn up for when they need to win to avoid relegation.
I mean, he was injured. He was injured, but it's not a good look. I think he does leave. And I think a potential destination could be Roma. I think
could be, yeah. Maybe they get rid of Dybala, bring in Berardi. Maybe.
Could happen. We'll see.
Yeah. Okay, right. Now we're going to do our Serie A awards for the season. Now that the season is over, or the Serie A season is now over. And we're going to start off with the Serie A team of the season. So I'm going to pick my team first. Then Nima, I'll let you do the pick your team as well. So I'm going to start off. I'm picking a 3-5-2 formation, and I'm going to go in goal. I know he wasn't in the official Serie A shortlist for goalkeeper of the season, which I didn't understand at all, to be honest with you. But I'm going for Jan Sommer as my goalkeeper of the season. I think when you consider that he was seen as a downgrade on Onana, most people were against this transfer, and he's ended up being an upgrade. He's conceded. Not him. Inter have only conceded 22 goals, but Aldero conceded a few of these. Inter have conceded the least number of goals in the big 5 leagues in Europe this season, and Sommer, I believe, has the most clean sheets of a goalkeeper in Europe's big 5 leagues, and he didn't even play all the games either. So I think it has to be Jan Sommer for my goalkeeper. Then in defence, I'm going for 3-man defence. I'm going for Bremer, who I think at the first half of the season was the best defender in Serie A. Then, of course, Juventus fell apart and he had a bit of a dip, but I think he returned. What we saw in the Coppa Italia final was fantastic. So Bremer. Then I'm going for 2 Italians, Alessandro Buongiorno, who tops so many of the metrics for Serie A defenders this season. His numbers when it comes to like interceptions, aerial challenges won, tackles, fouls as well. He's right up there. Magnificent. And then Riccardo Calafiori, who has probably been the breakout star, maybe, of all of Serie A, maybe, this season. I mean, incredible job from Motta, converted from a left-back to a centre-back. He's been brilliant in the Bologna story. My 2 wing-backs, I'm going for 2 Inter players. I know he didn't really play. He didn't play there for Inter, but right wing-back, I'm going Pavard, because I need to find a place for him in the team. He's been magnificent signing for Inter. And then Federico Di Marco, who definitely scored the goal of the season, that incredible halfway line lob, who was that goal? Who was that game against? The Federico Di Marco lob? Was it Frosinone? He scored
the Frosinone. Turati, I think, was in goal. And
insane,
because he's an Interista as well.
Brilliant. And then my midfield 3, I'm going for Hakan Çalhanoğlu, who I think was 14 goals this season. I mean, most of them are penalties, but amazing anyway. Amazing season he's had. Best midfielder in the league. And then Koopmeiners from Atalanta, who I think after Bellingham, only Bellingham has scored more goals from midfield, I believe, in Europe's big 5 leagues. I saw that doing the rounds. I haven't double checked it. But Bellingham played as a centre forward basically for the first half of the season for Real Madrid. So you could say Koopmeiners is number 1, and then Pulisic I've put into midfield. I know he was played more as an outside forward, but I think he has been Milan's best player this season, and amazing number of goals he's scored this season as well. And then the front 2, I think is picks itself. Lautaro Martinez, of course, Capocannoniere, and Joshua Zirkzee for Bologna, who's, again, breakout star this season, has been a revelation for Bologna.
I've got the same formation. I've got the only difference, I've got Bellanova as a right wing back. I don't have Calafiori. I've got Bremer, Buongiorno, and Bastoni. I've got Di Marco, and then I've got Çalhanoğlu, Koopmeiners, and I'm playing a 3-4-2-1. So I've got Pulisic there, and I've got Leao, and then Lautaro up front. I don't know if Zirk's up front. I still think there's a little bit lacking. So I'm playing a 3-4-2-1. I've got Leao and Pulisic behind Lautaro. So I've got a double tandem. I got like a pivot midfield, double pivot with Çalhanoğlu, Koopmeiners. So I got 3-4-2-1. But that's essentially the same that I've got. Because I think Bastoni, to me, I have to say, I'm so unbelievably impressed by the season Alessandro Bastoni has had, especially defensively. It's always been a weakness of his defensively, but the strides he has taken defensively and the leadership he's shown in that defense, I think, are a big, big reason why Inter have not conceded as much and have been so solid defensively. And if you look at historically at Inter's captains, who they are, the Bergomis, the Facchettis, the Zanettis, for me, Bastoni is more of the mold of an Inter captain than Barella and Lautaro both are. He leads by example on and off the pitch. He's really, really, he understands how to interpret his role at Inter. The way he is with fans, the way he is with sponsors, the way he carries himself, him and his wife, because that's also very important. I think we're going to see Bastoni as Inter's captain and Bandiera in the not so distant future. I really think so, and I also expect him to kind of stay there for many, many years to come. And he seems happy to want to do that too. So no, for me, I have to have Bastoni. I love Calafiore. I think he's, like you said, together with Zirkzee, probably breakout player of the season. And Buongiorno's stats are ridiculous. Brem has been bizarrely good. So, but I have to have Bastoni there. I think he's been absolutely fantastic in both phases of play, and he's taken strides that I didn't expect, that I didn't think he would be able to. But now he's doing it at the right moment of his career, and it's going to be interesting to see where they go from this.
Well said. Okay, so that's our Serie A team this season. We'll actually, because we're going over, we'll hold our Serie A awards for the season to Thursday's show, and we'll do our full awards. We'll go through all the main positions: best goalkeeper, best defender, best midfielder, best attacker. We're also going to do best fullback, best winger, best youngster, best transfer, worst transfer, best manager, and also. Go on then. We're going to do, by popular demand, we're going to do a Premface of the season as well. We're going to need some. We're going to need some help though. So, especially to all our Patreons, like please, I used to keep a note of all our Premfaces throughout the season, but it was taking up too much space in my Google Drive. So now every show I do, I just delete the show, so I don't have anything saved. Some of these should be memorable enough that we should remember them, Nima. But please do send them in. Yeah, like your best Premfaces.
Send in your Premfaces of the season that we've had so far, if you can remember them. Send us on Patreon, DM us.
Yeah,
and
then what we'll do is from the ones that you've sent in, we'll do a short list, because we're going to do a short list for each, for each award, and then we'll pick a winner from it.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Conference League finals on Wednesday. Olympiacos versus Fiorentina. The game is in Athens, but the dynamic of this is really, really interesting, as you kind of touched upon the other day briefly, Nima, that the game is at AEK Athens' stadium. So it's not as simple as, this is a home game for Olympiacos. But then again, it kind of depends, and I have no idea on this at all. It kind of depends, like, who are the fans in the stadium? Are they going to be Olympiacos fans flooding into the stadium, or are the AEK Athens fans going to kind of find their way into the stadium and start supporting Fiorentina? Like, how is it going to work? I don't know. It's going to be very, very interesting from that aspect.
Oh, it absolutely is. But I'm worried about if this game could have very negative, around the game. There could be negative things because of the fact that it's where it's played and Olympiacos fans are coming in. And there was actually serious discussions about moving the final from Greece. But the Greek FA would have been embarrassing for them if they couldn't have guaranteed the security here. But yeah, no, listen, it's going to be a fiery affair. And hopefully we don't see any trouble. And hopefully we see a fantastic night that sees Fiorentina finally win that trophy that they've so long been working towards under under Comiso, and I think that Fiorentina deserve, and I think this project deserves, especially also what's happened with the sad passing of Joe Barone. So no, I hope so, and they're in good form. Fiorentina, they've lost 2 in their last 8, have won 6. So hopefully we see Fiorentina turn up and win that trophy, because then we'll have 3. If I'm not mistaken, they will be in the Europa League as well, and we'll have Lazio, Roma, and Fiorentina in the Europa League, which is a very strong lineup. And of course that would also mean that Ivan or Torino will play in the Conference League, and hopefully Ivan Juric stays and he plays in the Conference League, and Europe needs to see Juric. It needs to happen.
Yeah, it's a shame that Napoli didn't because if Napoli had been in the Conference League, like in terms of like chances of going on the way and winning it, I mean, he would have had a really great chance of winning that title.
Yeah,
Napoli.
but I think that I don't want to go conspiracy theory here, but I do think there was some
Antonio
calculations
Conte
made.
told them not to. Antonio Conte
No,
sent them a
but I think
message. Don't.
no, I don't think Antonio Conte needed to. I think Aurelio is smart enough to read the tea leaves there. Like, I think he understands what's good for his club. Sometimes, not playing, traveling. It's not even the Europa League. I mean, I love the Conference League. I think it's one of the more fun things UEFA have come up with. One of the few good things they've come up with. It's so interesting, the tournament, and the people involved, the clubs involved in it, and when it gets to the latter stages. And no, I like this tournament. So I would have loved to see Napoli in it, and obviously they would have been favourites to win it. But given where
Although
Napoli,
Chelsea are going to be in it now because of Man United winning the FA Cup.
yeah,
So
so
Chelsea,
Chelsea, and that's another
Napoli,
thing.
that would have been a great final,
Oh
wouldn't
my
it?
god, that would have been so cool.
Antonio
But
Conte against his whole club that he went to court with against. So yeah, that would have been
how amazing would that not have been?
yeah.
Yeah, no, but we'll see. I mean, if Chelsea being in there, I think Chelsea are just going to cruise to that trophy. I mean, it just even Chelsea.
Even Juric. The problem is with Torino is that Buongiorno and Bellanova might leave. I think Buongiorno will probably leave. So I don't know. Yeah, what's going to happen to that Torino team next season? But anyway, let's not talk about Torino being there until Fiorentina win it. Let's just hope that Fiorentina do it.
Yeah.
And that they turn up in this final and finally get that trophy that really these 2 years deserve, because they've been to this is their third final in 2 years, so they they've got to win one of them at least. Okay, just before we finish off with Baggio, Premface and Serie Ass of the week, Leonardo Bonucci has announced his retirement from football at the age of 37 years old. His final game for Fenerbahce on Sunday, and they won. He came on as a second half substitute, but they didn't win the league. Galatasaray won their game, so he didn't finish on a high with a trophy. It's in some ways a sad ending for Bonucci to see him finish his career like this out in Turkey, spending this season. Half a season at Union Berlin, which was a disaster, and then moving to Fenerbahce, where didn't really do much better there. But if we look at the career as a whole, Nima, I mean, a magnificent career from Bonucci. He will go down as a legend, Italian football legend. Some Juventus fans still never forgave him for the way that he left Juventus, but he is a Juventus legend for what he achieved, for what he won, for being part of that incredible team, the BBC, with Buffon, Barzagli, Bonucci, and Chiellini. One of the great defences in modern football. We haven't had many great defences in the last 15, 20 years in world football because the art form of defence has died. The BBC, this Juventus and Italy defence, was one of the exceptions to that rule. Incredible defence, and he was the brains behind that defence. He was the elegance. He was the player that started it, that started the play from the back. Incredible range of passing, technically fantastic, mentally very, very strong. And it was a wonderful, wonderful career. And of course, Nima, crowned with the Euro 2020 success for for Italy. An incredible tournament, him and Chiellini at the back. Kind of their last hurrah, wasn't it, really, in football before they both started to get old and decline. And he, of course, scored. He scored in the final. He scored the equaliser in the final against England. It took it to extra time. Scored in the penalty shootout, and he was at the centre of the celebrations. No one will ever forget the way he mocked the English. It's coming home, or it's coming Rome. He chanted.
It's
He
coming
was
Rome.
somebody that also, of course, if he wasn't on your side, you didn't like him very much. He was kind of a bit of a bastard of a player in some ways. He was our bastard if you were a Juventus or Italy fan. But at the end of the day, it's been an amazing career for Bonucci.
It absolutely has. You look at, for me, I look at his Antonio Conte. I remember when Bonucci came up through the ranks, and together with Andrea Ranocchia, they were deemed to be the new. They were supposed to be the new, players that the new defenders of the new generation to take the step on from the previous Nestas and Maldinis and Cannavaros, and for me, him at Bari and under Antonio Conte with Ranocchia next to him, I mean, those two were the predestinati, and Ranocchia was rated higher.
Yeah, he was supposed to be the better of the two.
He was supposed to have been the better one, and as it turns out, I mean, his career is, for me, completely. I can't talk about Bonucci without talking about Conte, Barzagli, and Chiellini, because I think the fact that he came to Juve under Antonio Conte, and Antonio Conte fixed that system for him, or for Juve, with him kind of having Barzagli and Chiellini behind him, kind of doing the defensive works, and he could sit there almost like a quarterback in to use NFL lingo, and pick out these passes time and time and time again, which he did. Brilliant in the air, scored quite a few goals for a defender, fantastic passer of the ball. But for me, it's his career goes hand in hand. It's tandem with Barzagli and Chiellini. But we have, I kind of agree with what you said as well. I wonder if he's ever been better than that summer with Chiellini. They were the two best central defenders in the world that summer. They were unbelievable.
Yeah, at a time when both seemed like they were on the decline, but then they just had an Indian summer that summer, and just were just incredible, just faultless in that tournament. Amazing. And they were, both of them, but very mentally strong players, and probably the last of the kind of. Well, I guess Chiellini was more old school than Bonucci. Bonucci was a ball player as well, but he did have that tough side to him as well, which you need to win tournaments. Unfortunate how his career ended. Like, he really wanted to go to these Euros, Bonucci. He really wanted to. He felt like he had a chance, but then obviously with Roberto Mancini leaving, that was the leaving Italy. That was the end of it, and probably a good thing, because if you've seen Bonucci play this season, it's clear that he didn't want to accept it for a while, Bonucci, and then that led to kind of a bit of a sour ending to his time. But that happens with a lot of great players. They can't accept that age catches up with us all. You can't go on forever, and some of the greats that can't see it coming. They in the mind, they're still the player that they thought they were at their peak, and he probably went on a little bit too long, Bonucci, but it won't change. It won't change what he done during his career. Okay, so another great guy.
He has nine. He has nine Scudetti. He has 9 Scudetti. I mean, because he was part of the Inter team 05-06 that won the Scudetto, and then of course he's got 8 with Juve. So he will have won 9 Serie A titles, and then of course 4 Coppa Italias, 5 Supercoppa, 2 Champions League. So he is one of the most decorated Italian players in all of Italian football history.
Yeah, he certainly is. He certainly is. Right, let's finish off with Baggio, Premface and Serie Ass of the week. Baggio is pretty easy, and that is, of course, Atalanta as a whole. Absolutely magical performance in the Europa League final, thrashing Leverkusen 3-0 in Dublin. 51 games unbeaten going into that game were Leverkusen. They were such overwhelming favourites. The bookmakers, I mean, Atalanta were 3 or 4 to 1, which is almost unheard of in a one-off game in the final. And it was, as I said on our Thursday pod, and where we reacted to this, it reminded me of the great Milan thrashing Barcelona 4-0 in 1994, in that you had a favourite that was so overwhelming favourites, but didn't only lose the final, they got absolutely dismantled in the final. It was an iconic, historic performance from Atalanta, their first victory, first trophy for 6 decades, and their first European trophy ever, and the first trophy of his managerial career for Gasperini. And Ademola Lookman, of course, if we're going to pick an individual for Badger of the Week, we have to go Ademola Lookman, because that was a hat-trick for the ages. And he also scored on Sunday as well, so 4 goals in the week for Ademola Lookman.
Yeah, I mean, the only other possible Baggio of the week I can come up with is Davide Nicola. I mean, it's just how he does this time and time again. But yeah, of course, it's Atalanta. There's no doubt about that. But yeah. Davide Nicola as a runner-up in this week, because it's truly remarkable that he's managed to keep this Empoli side afloat in the Serie A.
For sure. Truly right. Remarkable. Premface of the week. I've got a couple. So the first one is our friend Joe Cole on CNC Sports, who credited West Ham for Atalanta's victory over Leverkusen, saying that Atalanta learned from West Ham how to trouble Leverkusen in this final. Which I absolutely
don't even know what does he mean by that? I don't get it. What is he referring to?
Because West Ham played Leverkusen in the quarter final, and Leverkusen, I think, won the first leg 2-0. Then West Ham went 1-0 up in the first leg, and they played a pretty good game, actually, until Leverkusen got their usual late equaliser to draw 1-1. But I didn't watch that game, but apparently West Ham were like quite aggressive and really pushed them about.
Didn't that happen in the semi as well? No, not in the semi. Didn't they play Lille? Or am I?
No, you're thinking of Aston Villa.
Sorry, yeah. Sorry, I mixed it up with the Conference League, Lille and what's his name? Emery. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't think. I got to be honest. I don't think Gasperini watches a lot of David Moyes. That's just.
I mean, that would be funny. I mean, Gasperini learning from David Moyes. That would be kind of like Pep Guardiola learning from Sam Allardyce or Mike Bassett or something.
Mike Bassett.
Right. My next Premface of the week was. I mean, listen, you have to watch this to appreciate it. It's hard for me to kind of describe it in words, but it's after Mauricio Pochettino got sacked by Chelsea, and this video of Rory the Tory went viral, and it's a compilation of Rory the Tory throughout the 23-24 season, and it clips together probably about a dozen videos of Rory the Tory talking about Pochettino. So first of all, it starts at the beginning of when Pochettino first got the job, and Rory the Tory's really building up. Oh, this is a fantastic side, a fantastic hire. He's going to win us the league. He's a world-class manager. And then kind of like a month later, this next one, Pochettino, yeah, he's the best thing. We finally got a great. He's really building it up, and it kind of gradually shows how Rory the Tory's just suddenly, it all starts to fall apart, and his opinion changes, and by the end, he's like, Pochettino needs to be sacked. He's Tottenham, he's Spurs, he's always been Spurs. I've always said he's Spurs. We should never have appointed him. I never wanted to have appointed him. He's just contradicted everything that you said at the start. It's just vintage Rory the Tory.
I don't know what to say to that. I just think this guy is such a I just can't stand these people, these influencers. Not even like I don't even know what he does. Like all of these the goal bridges, this Rory guy, speed. Like it's just so fake. All of it. I just can't take
Speed.
it
Oh my God! Did
seriously.
you see that video of Speed at the FA Cup
That's what I
final?
mean. It's so
He
embarrassing.
stood up in the like Man United were 2-0 up, and he stood up among the Man United section, and he's trying to hype up, try and get the Man United crowd going. He just stands up and he goes, "Come on, guys, get hyped up, guys!" And then like, there was these two like sort of like 40 something Man United fans. They were like, "Shut the fuck up, man!" like, and he's like, "What? What? Why are you getting mad at me? You know, we're winning 2-0. Oh, it was just, oh my God, it was cringe. It was absolute cringe. And it just summed me up. I mean, I was just thinking, like, that would be me. Like, if I was in a football stadium watching my team, even if they were winning, and this speed guy is like, because he's not a fan of Man United, obviously, he's just going there as an influencer wearing a Man United shirt. If he was there, like, shouting the kind of stuff that he and doing the kind of stuff he does, I would like be like, just shut the F up, man. And if my team were losing, I'd probably throw him out of the stadium myself. Yeah, it's like, oh my God.
Yeah, no, it's embarrassing. All of these, I don't know. I just find them like irrelevant. Do you know? Like, I don't get the point of this sideshow and this bad acting, because that's all it is. It's just bad acting. I mean, it's just when he was, when they're just they're pretending to know what they're talking about. Same thing with that Rory the Tory guy when he was talking about Haaland and that it's disrespectful to the establishment, whatever the hell that means. He's misusing terms that he doesn't even know what they mean. And then he's, this speed guy. It's just fake, man. I don't, whatever. Just move on. I just can't. It's a sideshow, to me it's just a sideshow, and they're irrelevant really. It's more fun when these journalists like Martin Samuel and what's his name, Henry Winter, and these guys, when they have meltdown, that is genuinely entertaining to me. Like it's just you talk about Allegri stealing a living. I mean,
Oh yeah, if you see the salaries that these guys are on,
you mean
Martin
I'm sorry,
Samuel,
but,
Martin Samuel
oh
on £200,000 a year just to write a few columns and destroy the buffet tray at every team's stadium.
oh my
and,
god,
and have a go at Nima on Talksport as well.
that's so funny. That's one of the funniest things ever.
Right.
And then write columns about it, trying to cope. It's very, very funny. No,
Serie Ass of the week, Nima. I've
but
got one, and I think you've got one, haven't you?
Yeah, go. You can go first.
Yeah. So first one was, of course, it wouldn't be a week of Serie Ass of the week without having something from the Serie A official Twitter account, and that was Serie A announced their nominations for under 23 Player of the Year, and guess who was on there? Raul
Yeah,
Bellanova.
but look,
How old is Raul Bellanova? 24 years old.
But the thing is, I don't want to be like. Let's be a bit fair. To be fair to Raul Bellanova, he turned 24 on the 17th of May, so he's been 23 the entire season, except for until 17th of May. I thought that was I get what he's saying, but it's not like he turned 24 at the beginning of the season. Do you know what I mean? Then I think he should be excluded.
But when they put out the post, he was 24.
Yeah,
so.
but it's the end of the season. He turned on the 17th of May. I thought that was a little bit.
Any awards for these, because other leagues do these for like under 21 player of the season or under 23 players of the season, they always cut it off so that you can't be over the age at the end of the season. Because you have to be, because I mean, like Bellanova's played a game this season when he's 24, so that doesn't count. But whenever they do awards, they're always cut off. So I mean, I'm not necessarily blaming the Serie A Twitter account for this. They're just announcing what the league is announced. But let's say Serie A is the Serie A of the week for having an under 23 player of the year where the player is over the age. So it just, it's just not how things are done. If they want to change the rules, they can do. If they want to change how it's normally done and say, oh, well, we're going to do it like this. They have to be under the age, I mean, it can be done. I mean, like under 21s, for example, Euro under 21 tournament. you have to be 21 or under at the time when the qualification starts, and then you'll have players that are 23 at the actual finals themselves. So this if we want to give them the benefit of the doubt. But I just found it amusing that they put out a post with the nominations for the best youngster and the players over the age limit.
Yeah, mine is, I've got two Serie Asses. One is, it's so funny because it's so stupid and hilarious. So Marko Arnautovic, Hakan Çalhanoğlu, and who was the third one? It was Hakan, it was Arnautovic. I can't remember the third one now. But whatever, Thuram, sorry, Marcus Thuram, Hakan Çalhanoğlu, and Marko Arnautovic commissioned rings from a very famous jeweler, apparently famous celebrity jeweler, to commemorate that Inter have won 20 Serie A titles, and it's in my opinion an absolute monstrosity, which probably cost them all a fortune. It's one of the most ugliest pieces of jewelry I have ever seen in my life, but that's just my personal opinion. It looks like just everything, like you just put a bunch of shiny shit together on a metal case. Like it's so just trashy and tacky in my opinion. But that's not the funny part. God knows how much they paid for this, because they misspelt Internazionale on the ring.
Oh, I saw this. Internazionale.
Yeah, Internazionale, they've spelled it instead of Internazionale. And it's just so, I can't stop laughing. So, and the way they hyped it up, and it was like, the guy came and handed it over, took photos with everyone, showed how it works, and the first part, the part of the ring can be taken apart and you can turn into a necklace. I mean, you can hang it as, I mean, it's whatever, each to their own, it's taste and preference. But the fact that they couldn't even get the spelling right, and they say it the way that, Carragher said it on that viral clip now on CBS when he said it with his Internazionale, and it's like it's just very 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 funny. But the second part is Serie A embarrassing themselves again. This is a week or two old now, but Alessandro Alciato is a journalist who works for Radio Serie A. It's their new kind of they're Serie A, doing interviews, radio and video interviews of people in Calcio, and basically doing it professionally instead of these kind of safe stuff where they don't say anything of any importance and significance. Radio official TV of the Serie A Football League is what it's called. And it was on May 9th that Paolo Maldini did this interview with Alessandro Alciato, and in this interview, Maldini basically praised Inter for saying for doing things right, and saying that their directors have stability, that they have, that they can work under in stable conditions. Essentially, Milan did not like this and put pressure on the Serie A to not air this. Something Alessandro Alciato, the journalist, confirmed. And then, of course, he was told, he was pressured to not air this. And then the Serie A, this is where it gets weird. The Serie A then released a statement saying that there was no, that they it's absolutely false. There was no pressure by anyone. No one's pressured us. We aired the interview, blah, 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 blah. No one said anything. Maldini's lawyer, Danilo Bongiorno, has released a statement hitting out at the censorship of the interview, warning of possible legal action. And then Alciato, after being made to look like a liar by the Serie A, released a long Twitter post saying, basically, very sarcastically saying, so I imagined all of this happening. I imagined the pressure. I imagined all of this, that you didn't want me to air this. I imagined that you changed your mind after Paolo Maldini rang you and yelled at you, and so on and so forth. I mean, it just turned into a complete and utter shit show, which the Serie A, of course, did not handle properly. because they are unable of handling conflicts. And I mean, if Milan are uncomfortable with an interview being being broadcast by the league in their Serie A TV radio, that's one thing. That happens. That's not new. That can happen anywhere, everywhere. But the way to handle that is to not try to censor it, piss off the guy you interviewed so that he's threatening legal action, make the journalist who did the interview look like a liar, so he resigns in protest, all because of a harmless comment. Okay, you can be seen as a dig at Milan. I understand that Milan weren't happy with it, and I understand that they raised their concerns. That's fine. But the way that the Serie A handled this is just vintage Serie Ass. Vintage Serie Ass. There exists no situation on God's green earth that the Lega Calcio cannot make infinitely worse, but via their own making. It's just unbelievable how clumsy they are. And so it's turned into this circus now. And it's just embarrassing. So yeah, that's got to be, for me, this is like vintage Serie Ass. And of course, Alciato going out and confirming, because he's been called, he's basically been branded to be a liar when he isn't. And he just went out and said all these things, and then he resigned in that post as well. But it's just never changed Serie Ass.
Yeah, clown show. That's what it is, a clown show. Right, let's leave it at that then. We'll be back on Tuesday for the Q&A, and then later in the week for reaction to the final of the Conference League, and also a few other little bits and bobs in that
and
episode
Serie A
as well.
awards of the week, Serie A awards of the week, and so on.
Of the season.
Sorry, awards of the season. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Premface of the season as well. So please make sure to send in your patrons. Please make sure to send in your favorite Premfaces, because we're gonna have some fun with that.
Yeah, we will do. Okay, thanks everyone for listening. See you next time. Ciao, ciao.